There's a few revelation developments that I want to talk about regarding the mark of the beast and what it is. And I've talked in prior videos about this in a lot of detail, especially regarding King Charles III. Since I pointed out to you that the prophet Daniel told us in Daniel chapter 7 that a beast is a king, then we can definitely deduce from that that the mark of the beast is indeed the mark of the king. And this will be the king that the Sanhedrin chooses, eventually restoring Israel's monarchy as it was in ancient times, with a false Messiah that is an anointed, coronated king, and they will give him a gold crown. So let me just start off by saying I covered this in depth in other videos, and so I'm not going to cover all of that I've covered. I'm going to pick up where I left off, and so you'll have to go watch those videos. But one of the main things I showed was King Charles III. He had a silver cross that had two slivers from Jesus' true cross from the Pope that was given to him, and those two pieces of the true cross were in the center of the silver cross. King Charles III has a mark called a hallmark, and all silver and gold is stamped, embossed with the hallmarking system. So I'm going to explain that and show you scriptures of how I believe this is totally preparing the way for the mark of the king. I also did videos where I had a dream and revealed that the royal cipher of the king, which has his title, his name, and his number on it, is actually the mark of the king. But he has other hallmarks that are embossed on silver and gold objects. So that's going to be what I focus on right now. All silver and gold that it has a certain fineness is stamped with a hallmark, otherwise known as a mark. And I can show you some of these photos of marks that are on silver and gold items. Now, one of the marks is by the Assayer. So these things are stamped at the assay office, and the mark indicates purity. And I think this could indicate and tie into what the Sanhedrin expects the purity of the Jews to perform in the third temple or to ascend the mount. To be a participant would have to have the mark of the king, showing that they have the purity and that they can go up to the temple. I think that that's an incredible connection. So what King Charles III hammered into the piece of silver was the leopard's head, and I talked about that being one of the beasts. And of course, the English lion is one of the hallmarks. He has the hallmark of a leopard's head. We know the other two beasts are the bear and the dragon. So he's got all four of those symbols, which I explained in another video. And the king's royal cipher is his crown, his title, his name, and his number. And this is what I was given in my dream, and it was revealed to me after the queen died that that's what the scrolliness was of the 666 that I saw embedded in a crown. And I saw that in my dream, and the army truck in my dream was like a World War II era truck. And of course, King Charles was born on November 14th, 1948, only about 6 months after Israel was born into a nation on May 14th, 1948. Let me tell you about what the Assayer does. And the hallmarks are put on the silver and gold at the Assayer's office. An assayer analyzes the composition and quality of substances such as metals, minerals, and ores. They work in a variety of industries, including mining, manufacturing, and precious metals. Their responsibilities are to inspect, grade, and sample materials, test and refine materials. As I state these things, please keep in mind these descriptive words. To test and refine materials, use chemicals, spectrographic analysis, and specialized equipment, determine the value of minerals, perform statistical analysis, complete inspection and test reports, advise colleagues and supervisors, and assist with environmental audits. Applications: assayers help determine if a potential mining site is viable, and they help investors determine the true value of gold and other precious metals. They help to ensure that precious metal goods meet quality standards. And assayers are chemists with a background in geology and mineral technology, and they use their knowledge of chemistry and specialized equipment to analyze materials. Assayers play a critical role in the mining and precious metal industries. The quality of their work can signify impact, how much money their employer earns. So let me say right here that there are various differing hallmark stamps or marks that are embossed into the precious metals. And one of the things that happened was that to celebrate the coronation of His Majesty King Charles III, Goldsmiths Company, London Assay Office, have in March 1st of 2023, they have begun applying a new commemorative items made of gold, silver, platinum, and palladium. Sanctioned by the British Hallmarking Council, the mark, which depicts the king's head against an oval background, was designed by Thomas Fattorini Limited. Part of this sentence was cut off, but it says, I think it says back metal by Ian Rank Broadley, FRBS. The mark can be applied by punch or laser alongside legally required components of the hallmark, sponsor, millisimal fineness, and commemorative marks have proved popular with UK consumers since their introduction in 1934 and have been used to mark important occasions, including coronations, the Millennium Celebration, and most recent commemorative mark was issued in 2021 to commemorate the Platinum Jubilee of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II in 2022 and was applied to 70,000 items by the London Assay Office. Will Evans, General Manager of the London Assay Office, said that the London Assay Office was proud to offer this historic mark to jewelers and silversmiths till the end of 2024. And they stated that the skill of their engineers had been pivotal in realizing this important moment. Their decades of precision engineering experience and at microscopic detail has led to the creation of some truly beautiful metal punches and digital artwork for laser application. So see, the mark of the king could be put on people by a cold laser. Okay, but that would be something that was sort of futuristic at this point. But seeing a London hallmark return to the consumer is always significant, and no more so than when it incorporates a commemorative mark to signify a key moment in national life. So I'm thinking that the king's mark that will happen in Israel could definitely happen to commemorate perhaps that they have reestablished the monarchy and appointed this king. So the people will be required at some point, or maybe given the option, to take the king's mark, his hallmark. The Goldsmiths Company London Assay Office has been applying hallmark since 1300. The term hallmark comes from a mark being struck in its hall on Foster Lane in London, 700 years on, and that process is still happening today at Goldsmiths Hall. Jewelers, silversmiths, and retailers can request the commemorative mark, as I said, from the 1st of March 2023 until it ended in 2024. And application will be charged at £1 for each item in addition to hallmarking charges. The mark that they struck depicts the king's head, you might say the king's image, which is fascinating, against an oval background, as shown here, struck into aluminum during our test process. Let me just show that to you. So there's Charles' head, or his image, struck into the metal. It's a mark of the king. They said the skill of our engineers has been pivotal in realizing this important moment. Their decades of precision engineering experience and attention to microscopic detail has led to the creation of some truly beautiful metal punches. And you can see that in this picture. If you can see right there, there's the king's head struck in the metal, the mark of the king and his image. So one of the things that's truly fascinating about a commemorative mark is that they will create a special mark for Jubilee years. I find that fascinating because one of the things I wrote in my book is about, will the Messiah return in a Jubilee year? Will they have a king restored onto the throne of David instead of King Jesus during a Jubilee? In my dream, I saw the crown, and it was a real scrolly design, and it had the 666 incorporated in the crown of the king. And it was dated to the World War II era with that army truck. That let me know that the king we were talking about was King Charles III, since he was born right after World War II ended. Now, you guys, this scripture is well known, but it just hit me about something about this scripture. And this is 1 Kings 10, verse 14. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold. Beside that, he had of the merchantmen, and of the traffic of the spice merchants, and of all of the kings of Arabia, and of the governors of the country. And King Solomon made 200 targets of beaten gold. 600 shekels of gold went into one target. And he made 300 shields of beaten gold. 3 pounds of gold went into one shield, and the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Okay, so we see that the weight of the gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold, which is 666, which we know quite well, this scripture. But it just hit me that what I'm telling you about the mark of the king is connected to marking gold and silver and precious metals with the king's hallmark. And so this verse is actually revealing that the 666, the number of his name, will actually be a king, because this was King Solomon that had the 666 with the talents of gold. So this is going to be a king. And of course, The rabbis have said that their Messiah is going to be a king. And it's going to be a legitimate king that is truly coronated with the holy oil that came from Jerusalem, like King Charles III. When we are sealed till the day of redemption, that means we are hallmarked with the King of Kings hallmark, which means that we are sealed unto the day of redemption because we have the King's maker's mark embossed upon us. And I would say our hearts as well. Now, isn't it interesting that this King's maker's mark, his hallmark, the mark of the king, which is a mark of the beast, because a beast is a king, will be something that is a metal tried by fire. God mentions his people being tested and refined like precious metal. So listen to this verse in Zechariah 14:9. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them. And remember, I just said the assayer tests the gold for its quality and purity. I will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. And they shall call on my name, and I will hear them, and I will say, it is my people. And they shall say, the Lord is my God. The King of Kings is going to refine them and test them for the quality of their purity. It's just incredible. The Lord seals, he marks with the maker's mark 144,000 of the 12 tribes of Israel. I want to read to you Malachi chapter 3, starting in verse 1. Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me, and the Lord, whom you seek, shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant, whom ye delight in. Behold, he shall come, saith the Lord of hosts. But who may abide in the day of his coming? And who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto the Lord, as in the days of old, as in the former years. And I will come near to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, and against the adulterers, and against false swearers, and against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow and the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right. And fear not me, saith the Lord of hosts. For I am the Lord, I change not, therefore ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. So what I'm telling you is that I realized that Solomon's story of receiving the 666 talents of gold and silver is revealing that Israel's Sanhedrin, their end-time king that they call their Messiah, he is the one that has or is able to emboss his mark, the 666, and has his mark embossed and hallmarked in gold and silver and people. And they do mark the hallmark with a laser. So this will mean that the people that take the king's mark, his hallmark, they will be under his power and authority as he rules and reigns over them. And they will be subject to the king. And a lot of times in ancient monarchies, the people had to swear allegiance to the king. Just like when King Charles III was coronated, they made the people swear allegiance to the king. Well, this is what's going to happen there in Israel. And everyone will marvel after the beast, which is this king. Because Israel hasn't had a monarchy for thousands of years. So will this king, who has the 666, mark the people with the cold laser? Will it be what they consider that you have to have the king's mark that shows your quality of purity to be able to attend and worship at the temple in Jerusalem. Because remember, the Gentiles had a completely different section. They were not allowed to get into the intimate workings of the temple or go into the Holy of Holies. They were kept outside, away from this place where the Lord was worshiped. And so basically what I'm saying is that the King of Kings, he stamps us with his hallmark, and that is his maker's mark, which says that we belong to the King. And it puts his stamp of that we are purified in the righteousness of Jesus and his testimony in his blood. Now, what is really stunning on top of this is that 16 karat gold is 66.6% gold and metal alloys. 666 is actually hallmarked or marked into the gold. And this is no joke. All countries mark the purity of their silver and gold with assayers. The mark indicates its quality and its purity and fineness. And we see in Revelation that this king causes all, both small and great, slave and free, to receive a mark on his right hand or on his forehead. So I'm telling you, this is a king who marks people who come under his power and authority, showing their loyalty to him because they loved not the truth. And what is the truth? The truth is Jesus, the King of Kings. He's the one who puts his maker mark on those who are purified in him and show the fineness of our quality as silver and gold is refined through a fire. But the time of Jacob's trouble is their time of refining by the King of Kings because they're accepting a different king. And they had pleasure in unrighteousness. So what that means is that they did not accept the love of the truth, which is the righteousness that they could have had in the true King Messiah that purifies them and makes them acceptable to the Lord in fineness of purity and righteousness through the Messiah. Solomon's 666 talents of gold was equal to 22 tons of gold. And it depicts an important notice of this king's wayward and unjust practices. His inordinate wealth, exploitation of his own people, and eschewing of God's law. So, will this king kind of be a parallel usurper king? So the king that the Sanhedrin selects, will he be this wayward with unjust practices, with inordinate wealth? Because we know Mystery Babylon, Jerusalem, has exceeding wealth in the last days, and that's going to come through that India, Middle East trade corridor that they have been pouring $95 billion into of U.S. money, and that's just the beginning. That was done in the Biden regime. So all of this money has been laundered and placed in the hands of the Jewish Zelensky into the hands of the Jewish Netanyahu, are both friends. So they've both been getting money out of the U.S. What's interesting about this is that the king will require those who have the mark of purity to be able to buy and sell because they have the king's maker's mark on it and his royal cipher. And with those that have, let me restate this. The king will require those who have the mark of purity to be able to buy and sell with those who have the king's royal hallmark stamped upon them. So the gold is like the gold standard of money, and it will allow the people to be able to buy and sell. So 666 talents of gold is roughly over $1 billion today, given the fact that gold fluctuates up and down. A talent of gold estimated to be 30 to 35 kilograms is a substantial amount of gold. Solomon the king was very rich and he loved his wealth. And just a little sideline, I don't follow numerology, but it says this about numerology: the angel number 666 can relate to money. So I see that as saying that's the gold standard behind money and finances, by encouraging balance and stability, which the gold standard actually does create stability so people can know that their money is secure. Sterling hallmarks are stamped with the number 925, or the notation 925 / out of 1,000. So when you see sterling silver, it's stamped and hallmarked on the bottom with the number 925. The maker's mark is in a rectangle standard. The traditional lion passant meaning it is 925 sterling silver. The hallmarking of gold and silver actually guarantees the purity or fineness of the metal. Hallmarks are a legal requirement on products of certain weight, depending on the metal being marked. Silver items below a weight of 7.78 grams and gold below 1 gram do not require hallmarking. Jewelry should be marked SS for sterling silver with the number 925, or ST for sterling. It can be stamped with the word sterling or even just with the word silver. The standard mark denotes the purity of the metal and consists of 3 numbers. So 16 karat gold, which is kind of an unusual, you don't really hear of it. You hear of 18 karat gold, you hear of 24 karat gold, but there's 16 karat gold that is 66.6%. So the standard mark of 16 karat gold would be the 3 numbers of 666 to show the precious metal content as parts per thousand within a shaped stamp. The stamp for gold it leaves is a rectangle that has had its corners removed, giving it 8 sides. Like platinum, palladium is stamped 950, which is a measure of the metal purity. Palladium quality markings include PD 500, PD 950, and PD 999, indicating the percentage of palladium content in the jewelry piece. Let me show you a photo of a German crown hallmark in a sun. And then we have another picture that shows several hallmarks that a lot of times show up together on a piece of silver. The hallmarks pictured here that you're about to see are, the first one is the maker's mark, then the lion passant, and the London town mark, which is the leopard's head, and then the London 1935 date letter, and the Jubilee mark. The Jubilee mark was used during 1934 and 1935 to celebrate the Silver Jubilee of George V. It is not a standard mark, but rather narrows the dates quite significantly. The false Messiah is a king who could have a Jubilee mark and a maker's mark and his royal cipher, which has his crown, his title, his name, and his number, and his image. And we just saw King Charles III's image stamped into that aluminum piece that they did as a test run. So there are 5 main categories of hallmarks on precious metal objects. Fineness, use maker's marks, sponsor's marks, assay office marks, and date letters. The sponsor's mark is either the maker, the importer, or the seller. So that reminds me of buying and selling with gold and silver as the standard that backs up the money. The markings on the silver, therefore, mean who made it, how pure it is, and who has tested it. So God said he was going to be like a refiner, testing and refining his people. Isn't that something? And he marks those that belong to him. And the others will take the mark of the usurper king that they take in place of King Yeshua. There are 5 standard marks found on British silver. One is the walking lion for all sterling silver made in England. 2 is the standing lion for all sterling silver made in Glasgow. The thistle for all sterling made in Edinburgh. And the crowned harp for all sterling silver made in Dublin. Sterling is 925 silver. Fine is 0.999 silver. So 16 karat gold is 666 and is stamped that way as a hallmark, as a mark. And it could be part of the king's mark because the king has the maker's mark and the Jubilee mark, and he can have a 666 mark if he's putting his mark on the gold and silver, which actually is the case. A 666 hallmark on jewelry indicates a metal purity of 16 karat gold, meaning it is 66.6% pure gold. This is a less common purity level between 18 carats and 14 carats. 16 carats is stronger and more durable than 24 karat gold. The 666 stamp on jewelry marks a unique intersection of artistry and precious metal content, indicating that a piece contains exactly 66.6% pure gold. This European hallmarking tradition differs from the American carat system, but represents the same level of quality. So I'm going to have to finish this up. There's not enough space on my camera. I keep getting cut off. But Israel's purity hallmark for 16 karat gold is a mark on the gold that indicates its purity. The Standard Institution of Israel, SII, verifies that the mark matches the gold's actual purity.